after 2 years of fighting, we find that the Mughals and the Assamese faced off in a unique battle known as the Battle of Saraighat, which took place in this triangle between the Ashwakranta Hill on northern side, the Itakuli Hill to the east, and the Nilachal Hill to the west. So this triangle is exactly next to Guwahati of today. It is the point where the river Brahmaputra is at its narrowest. Today you can define this point as the Kamakhya temple, which is at Nilachal Hill. The Itakuli Hill is a place where we have the temple, and we have the Deputy Commissioner of Bungalow also on this Itakuli Hill. This Itakuli Hill you can see just at the right hand side tip of the blue triangle on your screen. This was also the place where the Mughal Faujdar or Guwahati had stayed, and Lachit Borphukan had captured this very fortification during his invasion of 1667. So you find that the Mughals under Ram Singh had decided to mount a very large invasion and finally try to break through the embankments that Lachit Borphukan had put all around the city of Guwahati. You can see again here a space called Andurwali Sandbank. It had been reported to Ram Singh that this Andurwali Sandbank had a small weakness, had a small weak point where the fortifications were not as strong as other places. So maybe they could try and effect a breach over here. And Ram Singh was also now keen to try and make a progress in this war, because his usual tactics of trying to draw the Assamese onto the plains and onto the flat land had failed. The Mughals were now trying to push through their 40 vessels, all of them with 16 huge guns, into this narrow passage, which was just 1 mile wide. Now again, to come back to why did Lachit Borphukan choose Guwahati as a point for fighting against the Mughals. Now this was a point where the river narrowed down the most. The narrowing of the river created certain problems or certain conditions which are not usually seen on a land-based battle. The battle of Saraighat took place entirely on the river. It took place on the river Brahmaputra. And we find here that there were certain challenges posed by the water itself, which will not be finding on any kind of land-based battle. First of all, what happened is that the river narrowed down from about 5 miles wide, 4 miles wide, to about just around a mile wide at Guwahati. The basic physics will tell you that when water tries to pass from a wide area into a narrow area, its speed increases. So the first problem the boats are going to face is that they would have an increase of speed coming from the from the east to the west. So the Ahom boats, which are going from east to west, were going to have a push with them of around 5 to 8 kilometers per hour. So this again worked in two ways. One was that they would get more speed, but at the same time, this speed would make their controllability a little more difficult. At the same time, the Mughals were coming in from the west, and as they would go through this narrow area, they will find that they are going to face resistance. And while they would have better maneuverability, they would find that their speed is automatically slowed down. So this was one main advantage that Lachit Borphukan accrued out of taking Guwahati as a point to make a stand against the Mughals. The problem of maneuverability which had come across because of the increased speed, he overcame by employing smaller boats against the Mughals. While the Mughals were carrying ships that were huge in terms of the Assamese boats, so around 50 or 60 meter long boats, and each carrying about 16 cannons. The Assamese war boats were only about 3 meters wide, about 8 meters long. So this 8 meter wide boat, while it had the advantage of speed, by being small, they could also maneuver it in those narrow confines of the 1 meter or 1 mile wide river. The increase of the water speed also created other problems. One was that there was a drop in the pressure, and this caused the boats to sink a bit more. Although on the Ahom side, given the size of the boats, I doubt the sinkage would be much, but given the much larger 50 or 60 meter long Mughal boats, they would definitely have an appreciable sinkage on account of this water speed. The third problem which came about, again as a result of the moving water, is a phenomenon known as interaction. So this happens when two ships or two boats are moving at high speeds next to each other. This kind of creates a pressure difference which causes one ship to move towards the other ship. And in fact, in cases where the larger ship and smaller ships are involved, this can in fact make the smaller ship veer towards the larger ones. So this phenomenal interaction which makes the small boat veer towards the large one could well have been possible in this battle, where you had a 50-meter long Mughal boat trying to fight against a 6 or 7-meter long Ahom boat. And we know that the Battle of Saraighat, in the initial stages, Lachit Borphukan did not take a part. He was very ill, he was running a very high fever, and he found that in his absence, the Ahom boats are getting hammered by these 40 or 50 Mughal warships, and they are beating a retreat towards Gargaon. And then it is recorded that Lachit Borphukan, in his state where he was running a high fever, he came down to his own boat, he unfurled the Ahom flag, and all of them were then inspired to fight once more against the Mughals. And under the leadership of Lachit Borphukan, he managed to maneuver those boats, the small boats, against the Mughal armies and win. So it is quite possible that Lachit Borphukan knew about the way these boats behaved on the water and was able to maneuver them effectively. You will find that this naval battle, this riverine battle, which took place, had components to it which were very unique. Not only was the narrow space used efficiently, but the embankments had guards on them. So we also had a situation where if the Mughals tried to land themselves on the banks, they would get shot at or attacked by arrows from these banks. Now again, when we come to the Assamese boats, I mentioned that the Assamese boats were small, about 7 meters. And because these boats were small, 7 meter wide, and because these boats are small, obviously the cannons they had to place on them were also small in size. Whereas the Mughals were carrying 16 cannons on a 50-meter long ship. So the small Assamese boat carried small cannons. We had obviously the second problem is that you cannot load the boat beyond a point, because after a point the weight will be too much for it to bear and the boat will start sinking. So they used these cannons, which were very small, and they were able to attack the much larger boats of the Mughals. Again, you come back to the same problem, is that it was of range, where the smaller boat had to move closer to the larger boat to fire, where again we had the problem of the moving river below them, where the movement of the river created problems for the smaller boats. And here it is the navigation skills and the maneuverability skills of the Ahoms to be able to manage those boats properly and fire at the Mughals. So when we talk about the Ahom army or the Ahom riverine navy, we have spoken about how they employed a large number of boats on the river. So obviously, if there had to be a large number of boats, there had to be a dockyard somewhere to repair those boats, to make those boats, to take them in, put them out to the river again. And you find that two such dockyards are situated right inside the city of Guwahati today. One is Digali Pukuri, which you see to the left of your screen. It is near the museum. And the other is Doi Pukuri, which is again about a few kilometers off the first tank. So again in this diagram, I marked Digali Pukuri, which was a large tank. And initially in the time of Lachit Borphukan, this tank was larger, plus there was a canal that led directly from the tank to the river Brahmaputra, which you see towards the north. And see two black lines have been marked as the canal. Today, the Guwahati High Court building is standing on those lines. There was a canal in the medieval ages which led from the tank to the river. Over a period of time, they stopped getting used, and eventually the British filled up this canal. They made Digali Pukuri into a separate pond or tank, and the Guwahati High Court building was built over the canal. But during the days of Lachit Borphukan, we find that boats would come up this canal into this tank called Digali Pukuri, and then they get repaired or they get refitted, and then again sent back into this canal to reach the river and continue fighting. So the Assamese had an entire infrastructure ready to fight their battles on the river. It's a very unique situation. You find that most of the armies in India had an artillery arm, a cavalry arm, maybe an infantry. Rare cases, there was a naval arm in place, such as Chhatrapati Shivaji and some other kings to the south. But Assam is the only place you find that there was a working river navy, where the entire navy of the Ahom kingdom was based on the river Brahmaputra. It never reached the sea except for trade. But they had the infrastructure, they had built ports, they had built dockyards, they had built refitting centers at places such as Guwahati and other places all along the Brahmaputra. And this was their strong point. It is to Lachit Borphukan's advantage, or in fact to his intelligence, that he managed to trap the Mughals in exact this place where his point was the strongest. So again, coming back to Digali Pukuri and the river navy, you find that the Assamese also had devised certain tactics such as a Panigad, where they would build a sort of fortification or a sort of embankment in the middle of the river during a fight from which they could battle the enemy. You find there are cases where the Assamese have actually managed to build a structure in the middle of the river where they have put up bamboo poles in the Brahmaputra and put a platform on top from where they would fire on the Mughals. There are also cases where the Assamese build a kind of bridge of boats from one point to other, which would then blockade an incoming Mughal boat. Also, the kind of wood that the Assamese, that the Ahoms used for their boats was of very special kind, and it was able to carry a lot of weight. And as a result, even the boats were small, they were able to carry a lot of weight and guns and men when they went to fight against the Mughals. So this Battle of Saraighat took place in March 1671. It was essentially a battle of those 40 large Mughal ships against the smaller boats of Lachit Borphukan. And by clever use of the terrain, by clever use of strategy and of navigation knowledge, Lachit Borphukan was able to defeat a much larger Mughal army. Mughal warboats were more correct for using, more for the coastal warfare, and not really fitted for fighting on the river. You can see this is the modern day bridge of Saraighat, where the Assamese have built a bridge at the narrowest point. This is more or less the point where the battle took place many years ago in 1671, and was the place where the Mughals were defeated soundly by the Assamese. Now, after facing defeat in this battle, the Mughals returned, and Ram Singh accepted defeat. He went back to Dhaka, and from there it progressed back to Agra. What you see on the screen here is a Sanskrit inscription which is found in Assam, and it actually commemorates Lachit Borphukan's victory over the Mughals in 1667, the first time it took Guwahati. And so there is a stone inscription where the original has been kept in the museum, and a replica has been put up outside the temple of Sukreshwar in Guwahati. So I would like to conclude my talk here regarding the Battle of Saraighat and Lachit Borphukan. I have also written a book called Brahmaputra on the brave Assamese general, who was contemporary Chhatrapati Shivaji. I hope you like my talk, and I believe I should now open this for any questions.
Hi Anish, a small question I haven't been to Assam yet. So if I talk about Lachit, so how much remain of Lachit there in the culture and what in the education and all that stuff. So this is my basic question.
Oh, right. So Lachit Borphukan is a very popular name in Assam, and just about every Assamese person you meet will know at least something about him. I mean, it is very similar to Chhatrapati Shivaji in Maharashtra. So right from rickshaw drivers to teachers to anyone I met, he was very happy when I went to Assam and told them that I'm working on a book on Lachit Borphukan. So general knowledge is definitely there. Plus, you'll find a lot of places are named after Lachit Borphukan, such as this Lachitgarh High School. Plus, they have set up statues, they have set up memorials at various places. And one good thing is that a lot of places associated with Lachit Borphukan and his life are actually situated all around the modern city of Guwahati. So you don't really have to travel very far if you want to catch up on bits and pieces of his life. Like for example, this fort of Itakuli, where he defeated the Mughal Faujdar, it is today situated right middle of Guwahati. And in fact, at that place there is today a temple of Sukreshwar, where they have put up a plaque commemorating the Battle of Saraighat and also a replica of the stone where it is written regarding how Lachit Borphukan fought against the Mughals. So yes, definitely in Assam he is a very well-known name.